I'm Laura, an engineer at Buildkite. Today I'll introduce you to clusters, a new way of managing your Buildkite agents. Until now, all agents and pipelines live together within an organization. With clusters, you can create isolated groups of agents and pipelines within your one organization. Grouping agents within clusters ensures they are contained within set boundaries. This is fantastic for the security of your applications. For example, I might have pipelines configured for a set of private repositories, as well as an open source project that has some public contributors. To comply with my internal security measures for my private repos, I want to keep these completely separated in Buildkite. I can easily achieve this by assigning my private and open source pipelines to separate clusters. I've created the clusters already, so I can go in and configure my pipelines. I head to Pipeline Settings, and under Cluster, select Change Cluster, and the cluster that I need. Let's take a closer look at my clusters. I've got my open source cluster and my private cluster all set up. Within my private cluster, I've got different queues for my pipelines to target, depending on the situation. I've set up the heavy queue as the default because I'll use it for the majority of my CI needs. And I've also got another one here for more lightweight jobs. In addition, I've set up a separate queue for deploys. This will run agents with even tighter security boundaries in place. I can increase my security posture even further by adding CIDR ranges for my cluster's agent tokens. In agent tokens, I can select the token that I want, and here I can see that there are no restrictions in place for IP addresses. To change this, I hit Edit, enter the range that I want to allow, save and confirm. Network addresses outside of the range that I selected will now be prevented from running agents with this token, and any agents currently running from a disallowed address will be forcefully disconnected. When viewing a queue, key metrics are displayed to help me monitor performance and identify any potential issues. On the top left, I can see the total number of agents connected for this queue, as well as their utilization split. The middle section shows how many jobs are running versus waiting. And on the right, I have visibility over the P50, P95, and P99 wait times for scheduled jobs. Pausing a cluster queue will prevent new jobs from being dispatched to agents in that queue. This can be useful in a variety of situations. For example, I might want to run some updates or perform some troubleshooting or run an experiment in my agent stack. To pause a queue, I select the queue, select Edit, and then pause the queue. I can also leave a note to explain the reason for pausing the queue. Once confirmed, a notice is now shown on the queue page with the details of the user that paused the queue, the timestamp, as well as the note. The same notice will also display on any builds affected by the paused queue, so other engineers will know what's going on. When I'm ready for the queue to resume work, I select Edit and then Resume Queue. Once resumed, job dispatch will return to normal. Both individual users and teams can be given permission to maintain clusters. Cluster maintainers can manage queues and agent tokens assigned to that cluster, as well as adding and removing pipelines from the cluster. To add a maintainer, head to Maintainers, Add Maintainer, and then select a user from your organization. Clusters is backed by Buildkite's REST and GraphQL APIs, allowing you to manage your clusters and pause queues programmatically. This can make migration to clusters more efficient or help with configuring clusters in a larger organization that might have many pipelines and agents, as well as integrating with existing automated workflows. Let's take a look at some example API calls. In this case, I'll be using Buildkite's REST API to get a cluster queue. Here's my response. And we can see that my queue is not paused. Let's change that. So following the instructions laid out in the Buildkite documentation, we've just added a couple of things to the API call here. We've added a header specifying the content type, changed it to a post request, added pause dispatch to the URL, and I've also put in the optional dispatch pause note parameter. So now we can see from the response, our note has been recorded, and dispatch has been paused on the cluster queue. Jumping across to the Buildkite UI, I can see that my changes are reflected here. We've got a build that's been affected by the paused queue, and I can see that the notice is displayed with my note included. Clusters are still in beta, so we'd really appreciate your feedback. What features are you loving? What could we improve? Please get in touch at buildkite.com/support to share your ideas. We would love to hear from you.